Hi, I'm Candace Benson, CEO of Benson Consulting and the proud sponsor of the New Hampshire Tech Alliance Tech Women video series. Our series is highlighting the stories and impact of women leaders here in New Hampshire, and I'm joined now by Erin Hopkins. Erin, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So excited to hear from you today. Why don't we start with, I know you had a little bit of a different entry path into technology. Why don't you share a little bit about your journey and kind of what you've learned about yourself through that journey and what you're excited about to be working on today?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. So my current role is Vice President and Senior Director of Technology at Liberty Mutual. Okay. Liberty is a top 5 insurance carrier with 40,000 employees worldwide, so a fairly large company. Absolutely. More specifically, I currently support our personal lines business, so your typical auto insurance, home insurance, and then narrowing in even further, I support claims technology for Liberty Mutual. Okay. And as you mentioned, I do have a little bit of a non-traditional path into technology. So I started actually in underwriting at Liberty, and it gave me a really solid foundation and a lot of context as to what our industry does, how we do business, how we underwrite, how we rate our business, et cetera. But every role that I had was always working very closely with technology. So I had a lot of roles as a business analyst, a product owner, and then it was about 6 years ago where I took the leap into technology itself. And what I found is that I just have a really deep passion for understanding what the business problem is or a business need, and then working with teams and people and just fantastic leaders to be able to actually solve that business problem with technology. I also have a really deep passion for leading people in teams. I love to, motivate individuals by creating a really exciting vision, and then helping create autonomy so people can thrive and drive really great outcomes.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned a little bit at the beginning about you working with different groups across the business, and that's how that was able to influence your ability to move people forward in the technology space. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what are those specific skills that you have used to really gain consensus and get people on the same page as you're trying to work through projects or ideas?
Yeah, especially working in a really large company, like building consensus is obviously a key skill set, and it can be very challenging, exactly. So the way I think about it is it's all about creating an environment where people feel comfortable about sharing their ideas, and ways of doing that, in particular skill sets that I've seen be really successful is one, deep listening. So, creating an environment where it's inclusive for people to openly talk and then listen to them carefully before the words come out of your mouth to respond, right? So deep listening. Another one would be is asking questions of curiosity. So, sort of the 5 whys, or like going deeper to really understand, so that as you're working to build that consensus, everyone's hearing the ideas coming out on the table and can align around whatever the goal is. And then I'd say lastly, like something that I also often look for in building consensus is there's sometimes people that are a little bit quieter, right? And so creating that, again, inclusive environment, so that others can step up and others, are able to step back and hearing all sorts of voices to come to a conclusion together.
Yes, very important to get that diversity of thought and all of those ideas, absolutely, to get to the best solution. So you mentioned listening, and you mentioned hearing maybe where other people are coming from. Can you think of a time in your own life where you shared your vulnerability and that helped you influence others?
Yeah, when I think about that one, for me, it's really all about we're actually all human, right? And so while we often strive for great work-life balance and really compartmentalizing our work and our life, where I've seen great success in building strong teams and building trust is when I'm super open and transparent about what's going on in my life, and helping others feel just okay with also being human. So there was a couple years ago where I had a really difficult family situation going on. And as much as I wanted to just I feel like this is a trait of females often of just got to push through it and get to the other side and try to do all of it. I took a step back and said my family really needs me at this time. And I have plenty of amazing people on my team that I know can carry whatever the workload was at the time going on. And so I shared with my team the details of what I had going on in my family. And the response that I got was so overwhelmingly positive of like, thank you so much for being transparent. You're building more trust with us. And therefore, it created an environment where, people were thriving and, driving forward, what we were doing at the time. So that was a huge, I would say, aha moment for me of like just being a lot more open and transparent.
That's so great. And I think it also allowed you, maybe not in an obvious way at first.
Yeah,
maybe you weren't
exactly.
thinking about it to be
Yeah.
able to say, I'm asking for what I need right now.
Exactly.
But it showed you that if you open up and you shared that you're
Yeah.
asking for what you needed from your team, and they stepped up and they said, of course,
Totally.
we're going to help you because you help us when
You're
we
spot
need it.
on.
And so
Yeah.
that's so great.
Yeah.
Thinking a little aspirational, so in your industry or in the tech field, what are some of the things that you might want to see change or be different in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's such a fascinating question because, obviously, when I think about AI, I envision that every industry could be massively different in the next 5 to 10 years, right? What's super interesting about insurance is that I think insurance is viewed as a little bit more like old school type of, industry. And I don't really know anyone that like goes to school for insurance, right? So within each of our like sectors within insurance, technology being such a huge one to successfully drive forward really any insurance carrier, whether you're a top 5 or you're, a local carrier, really it's all about like how do we continue to advance beyond the technology itself, but the talent that we're bringing in the door, right? Absolutely. So even using AI to create more diverse talent pools, and how do we inspire, kids coming out of college to understand like the promise that an insurance carrier actually makes. There's a lot of human touch to it to be able to say like, hey, I'm giving a check to somebody that had like a massive loss, and we're actually helping them get their life back together, right? And so bringing those inspiring stories to then influence, and future engineers and wanting to come into the insurance sector and still be able to do, the awesome things that they want to do as technologists.
That's such an interesting way to approach it, to say,
Yeah.
how can we use that technology to make
Yeah.
our industry feel more exciting?
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
you're spot on, is having those stories and sharing the benefits and how it's impacting people.
Totally.
I think that totally is spot on. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess last question is, if you were to think about younger women coming into the tech field today, what advice might you give them based on your experiences?
Yeah, I love that. I would say it's all about networking. So building a network of people around you, not just people that are like you, but more importantly, people that have diverse backgrounds and experiences that can help you build your skill sets, build different knowledge, build different context, is just so incredibly important. And linking back to what we were talking about earlier of like, we try to do it all. Well, you need that network of people to be able to support you as you continue to grow in your career. And so that's always my top advice is like, even though it's not necessarily natural for everyone to network and get out there and put yourself out there, it's just so incredibly important.
It is so important. I think one of the hang-ups with that, and I wonder if you agree, is we get nervous about talking about ourselves
Yes.
too much. We think that I don't know what to say to this person, but I think being authentic and just talking to people about something that's real about you, instead of trying, we used to get that advice of have the 30-second elevator speech.
Yes.
That doesn't feel real to anyone, and it's uncomfortable. So just being able to talk about who you are and what you're looking to to do in the world at that moment, I think is how that feels more comfortable. Would you agree with that?
Completely agree. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you
great to chat.
joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you.